Okay, that's great. Thanks. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Welcome everyone to our council meeting for this February 22nd. And I'd like to call the meeting officially to order. First item on the agenda, of course, is to adopt the agenda. So I have a recommendation here that the agenda for the February 22nd, 2022 regular meeting of council be accepted and passed. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And then we'll go move on to disclosure of pecuniary interest on anything on tonight's agenda. I have none to disclose. Councillor Yake?
No.
Councillor McCabe?
I have none, Andy.
Okay. Councillor Hearn?
No.
Councillor Burke?
No.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is our county council update for February. And with us this evening, we have Councillor Campbell Cork. Welcome, Campbell.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Council, for taking a few minutes to listen to some county news. I know you got a big meeting. As our Chief Building Inspector, building official, Darren Jones, has made eminently clear to us, and as some of us know by looking out our front door or our back door, there's a lot of people coming to town. And as often as not, they sometimes need a little help fitting in and understanding how the community works. So to this end, the county is initiating a new project called Welcoming Newcomers. It's a joint effort between Wellington County Libraries and Wellington County Economic Development. So economic development is providing specific information to assist newcomers to find resources that are available in the community. And the libraries, as community centers, provide the location and skills to get the information out. The 14 library branches, that are spread across the county are an obvious location for newcomers to easily access information, and library staff are skilled at helping people to access this information. So I'll just tell you a couple of the things that they're planning to do is to make available prominent links on both the library and the County of Wellington's websites to make the information available there. The libraries will host community events aimed at providing information to newcomers, and the library will assist with the distribution of information and welcome packages provided by economic development. And economic development will actively promote the 14 library branches as key information centers to newcomers and residents. So it really is a back and forth. And I have to say, I think this is a terrific program. I think very often this kind of information can be a real stumbling block for newcomers to our community. I'm going to tell you for a second about what's happening at the Wellington County Museum and Archives. There's two new exhibits. One is entitled Feathers and Fossils, and the other is entitled For Old Time's Sake, the clock collection of our own county Senator Rob Black. The clock exhibit explores timekeeping and antique clocks and the history of clocks. That show runs to May 22nd. Second show, Feathers and Fossils, features life-sized robotic dinosaurs alongside authentic and replica fossils from the Middle Jurassic to the late Cretaceous epoch, and don't ask me what that means. The exhibit features dinosaur skulls, bones, teeth, eggs, and I know you were waiting for this, fossilized dinosaur poop. This show runs to March the 20th. Finally, the Wellington County Library and Wellington County Museum and Archives is celebrating writers from our community. Yay. Local writers and writers of books relevant to Wellington County will be part of the first annual Wellington County Writers Festival, which opens Saturday, April 23rd at the Wellington County Museum and Archives. The festival closes June 25th at the Hillsburg Library. And if you're working on your memoirs, you're a little late for this year, but you're not too late for next year, so get scratching. I can't wait to read it. I want all the dirt on everybody. And with that, I will say good night.
Okay, thanks, Campbell, for the update. You kind of set yourself up there saying what not to ask. I'm just waiting for somebody to ask that question. But we will let council ask some questions if they have some for you.
Okay.
Any questions for Campbell? Besides his interpretation of the Cretaceous period?
I was hoping you'd jump in on that, Andy. But they were
No,
such
I'm
big
good.
words.
Thanks very much, Campbell.
Thank you.
Doesn't look like we have any takers, Campbell. So
Well,
other
thank
than
you very
the
much.
Cretaceous epoch, I guess we don't have any questions.
Okay.
Thought
Thank
maybe
you
you were
all.
talking about Paul Epoch for a minute.
Have a good meeting.
Yes, thanks very much, Campbell.
Thanks, Campbell.
Okay, next we need to recess to move into a public meeting for Committee of Adjustment. So the recommendation here is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North recess the February 22nd, 2022 regular meeting of council for the purpose of holding a public meeting under the Planning Act. For James Martin, minor variance, Ferris and Mary Martin, minor variance, and Mike and Sarah Saunders, a minor variance. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we are recessed from our council meeting and we'll switch over to Committee of Adjustment. And I'll call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and ask if we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest with regard to any of the applications before us tonight. I have none to declare. Councillor Burke?
No.
Councillor Hearn?
No.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCabe?
I have none, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Yake?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we need to deal with the minutes of the previous meeting. So we have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of February 7th, 2022, application A03/22 be adopted as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. Any questions or comments in regard to those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Just give me a second here. Okay, sorry about that. So our first application this evening is A04/22 for James M. Martin. Location of the subject property is described as concession 12, part lot 9, and is municipally known as 6816 Side Road 4. The property is approximately 61.16 hectares in size. And the location of the property is shown on the map in your package. Purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from the maximum square footage for an existing home industry lumber mill. The applicant is proposing to construct a 222.9 meter squared addition to an existing 557.4 meter squared shop. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How is notice given for this public meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the property, as well as to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on February 2nd, 2022.
Okay, thank you. And who do we have? Oh, there's Matthew popped up. Welcome, Matthew. Can you give us the report on this one?
For sure, will do. And good evening, members of council. Let me just find the right page here. Perfect. So again, through you, Chair, before you today is a minor variance application to provide relief from the maximum floor area for an existing home industry. The subject lands are zoned site-specific A155, which permits a sawmill as a home industry with a maximum floor area of 6,400 square feet. The applicant is seeking to expand his current operation. And as mentioned, the current shop is approximately 6,400 square feet, and they're proposing in addition, or sorry, a 2,000 square foot addition to provide additional storage on site. With that said, planning staff have no concerns with the application as the request is minor, meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and I welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
Other than what's listed on the agenda, no, there's been no further correspondence received.
Okay, thank you. Any persons wishing to be notified of the decision must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer. And with that being said, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments from the applicant and or the public. Do we have anyone registered to speak on this one, Karen?
Yeah, James Martin, he's calling in by phone and he's been moved in as a participant. He's still on mute, Mr. Martin, so we can't hear you. There you go.
Welcome, Mr. Martin. Would you like to make any comments in regard to your application?
No, I'm just listening in, see if there's any comments from anybody else.
Okay, thank you.
Just like to expand our existing business and have a wee bit more storage space.
Okay, thank you. Karen, did we have anybody else registered to speak on this application? Sorry, you're muted.
We do not. So
Okay, thank you. So I'll open the floor for any questions or comments from the committee.
I have none, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to the decision then. And the decision will be that the minor variance applied for in application A04/22 for the property described as concession 12, part lot 9, geographic township of Arthur, with a civic address of 6816 Side Road 4 to provide the following relief. Number one, that an increased total floor area of 780.3 square meters be permitted for a proposed addition to an existing shop, whereas the bylaw allows for 594.56 square meters. All those in favor? That's approved. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Martin, I'm going to move you back out of the meeting, but just for your information, as you just heard, that was approved.
Okay, we'll move on to our second application. This is for Ferris and Mary Martin. The location of the subject, so application A05/22. The location of the subject property is described as Division 4, Lot 2, East Owen Sound Road, and is municipally known as 9885 Highway 6. The property is approximately 17.12 hectares in size, and location of the property is shown on the map in your package. Purpose and effect of this application is to provide relief from the minimum interior side yard setback for an accessory structure. This minor variance is a condition of severance application B15/21 that was granted provisional approval by the Wellington County Land Division Committee. The applicants have 2 existing sheds and a barn located closer than the minimum 18.3 meters interior side yard setback. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How was notice given for this public meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters and as well as to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on February 2nd, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Matthew, if you can give us the rundown, please.
Perfect. So thank you. And again, through you, Chair, before you is a minor variance application, provide relief from the minimum interior side yard setback for 2 accessory structures and a barn. This variance is a condition of consent application B1521 that was granted provisional approval by the County Land Division Committee. The severance application was for a farm split, which rendered 2 accessory structures and a barn within the required 60 feet of the interior lot line. Figure 1 of my report paints the best picture of the request. So the barn, the quote unquote barn is located approximately 29 feet from the lot line. Shed 1 is located approximately 18 feet and shed 2 is located approximately 49 feet from the interior lot line. With that said, planning staff have no concerns with the application as the request is minor and meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and I welcome any questions.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
Nothing other than what's been listed on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Any person wishing to be notified of the decision must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer. And with that being said, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments from the public and or the applicant. Do we have anyone registered to speak in regard to this application, Karen?
We do not.
Okay, so we'll move it to questions or comments from the committee. Anything from committee members?
I don't have any, Andy.
Okay, well, we'll go right to the decision then. And the decision will read as follows: that the minor variance applied for an application A05/22 for the property described as Division 4, Lot 2, East Owen Sound Road, Geographic Township of Arthur, with a civic address of 9885 Highway 6, to provide the following relief. Number 1, that a reduced interior side yard setback of 8.8 meters be permitted for an existing barn, whereas the bylaw requires 18.3 meters. Number 2, that a reduced interior side yard setback of 5.6 meters be permitted for an existing shed 1, whereas the bylaw requires 18.3 meters. And number 3, that a reduced interior side yard setback of 14.8 meters be permitted for an existing shed 2, whereas bylaw requires 18.3 meters. All those in favor? That's approved. Thank you. So we'll move now to our third application for this evening. This is application A06/22 for Mike and Sarah Saunders. Location of the subject property is described as concession 11 North Park Lot 12 and is municipally known as 9196 concession 11. The property is approximately 0.8 hectares in size. Location of the property is shown on the map attached in your package. Purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from the maximum floor area for an accessory structure. The applicant is proposing to construct a pool pavilion with a floor area of 59.4 meters squared. The subject lands contain an existing 222.9 square meter accessory structure. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How is notice given for this public meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property and as well as to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on February 2nd, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Matthew.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, once again, before you is a minor variance application to provide relief from the maximum lot coverage for all accessory structures. The applicant is proposing to construct a 640 square foot covered pavilion / pool shed. There is also an existing 2,400 square foot garage on the subject lands. The variance is required as the bylaw permits a maximum floor area of 22,450 square feet for all accessory structures on a 2-acre lot. And with that said, planning staff have no concerns with the application as the request is minor, meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and I welcome any questions.
Great, thank you. Has any correspondence been received in respect to this application?
No, we did not receive any correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Any persons wishing to be notified of the decision must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer. And with that being said, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments from the applicant and or the public. Do we have anyone registered to speak on this one, Karen?
They did not register to speak, but I see that Sarah Saunders is attending the meeting, and I've attempted it several times to move her in as a panelist. I can't seem to do that, but I have given her permission to speak if she wants to say something. I don't think we'll be able to see her for some, but she should be able to speak if she has anything she'd like to add.
Okay, Sarah, did you have anything you would like to add at this point?
You're on mute, Sarah.
Okay, I think we'll move ahead then. We'll ask if there's any questions or comments from committee members.
I don't have any. I think it'd be a great addition to the property.
Okay, so we'll move on to the decision parts. And it reads as follows: that the minor variance applied for an application A06/22 for the property described as concession 11 and north part lot 12, geographic township of Arthur, with a civic address of 9196 concession 11, to provide the following relief. Number one, that the combined maximum floor area for accessory buildings of 282.4 square meters be permitted for a proposed covered pavilion pool equipment shed, whereas the bylaw permits 227.6 square meters. All those in favor? That's approved. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of our Committee of Adjustment agenda. So we'll move to adjournment. And the recommendation here reads that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of February 22nd, 2022 be adjourned. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned. Thank you. After all the times of reading February 22nd, 2022, I'm getting tired of saying two. I guess today's date is also a palindrome I was reading earlier. That it's the same whether you read it forwards or backwards. And I don't think anybody was here the last time their date had a palindrome with ones. Anyways, we'll go back to resuming our regular council meeting. And recommendation is that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Wellington North resume the February 22nd, 2022 regular meeting of council at 7:23 p.m. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Dan, seconded by Steve. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're now resumed, and we'll move on to meeting minutes. And we got regular meeting and our special council meeting. So it's February 7th and February 10th. The recommendation is that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on February 7th, 2022, and the special meeting of council held on February 10th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Lisa, seconded by Steve. Any questions, comments on those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There, I'm through the first page of our agenda. We only have 11 more pages to go of the cover sheets. Yeah, we don't have any business arising from the previous meetings, so we're on to items for consideration. So if we can pick out those items that we'd like to have some further discussion on. Steve, go ahead.
And through you, Mayor Lennox, I'd like, excuse me, 2C and 2D.
Okay, to see development updates in both Arthur and Mount Forest.
Yep. 6A, just purchase of the fire truck on page 93.
Okay.
6C, the fire chief's and the deputy chief's annual report.
Okay,
7A, just the county agreement. On page 130.
yep,
8A, the voting dates on page 132.
okay,
And the final one, 9A, Ontario Land Tribunal on page 140.
okay. Thanks, Steve. If everybody picks as many as you, we're gonna be here for a while.
Should make him go
Anybody?
last.
They can go last. So who else would like to pick some out for some discussion? Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'd like 9. There's a number of them, correspondence letters. So it's 9B, C, D, E, and F, all in regards to the same development. So I'd like to pull those out. I don't know. I guess
Do you want to?
they're all
pull them?
separate, but
So do you want to
Sorry?
pull them all, Dan, and we deal with all of them, or do you want to pull one as a representative of the rest?
well, one is a representative of the rest would be fine. Yeah. So 9B.
Okay. Okay, any others? Anybody else has? Sherry, go ahead.
2A,
Okay, just sorry.
2A is, that's Avila.
Okay,
So 2A, 4A. 4A is Saugeen Connects.
okay,
And just hold on a second here. 8B
8B,
is with
council meeting
regards,
schedule.
yes.
Okay,
I think the others that I had on my list have already been pulled.
okay. Any others that we'd like to pull out?
Are there any left?
Lisa, and I see your hand there, Karen, so I'll get to you as soon as Lisa's finished here.
I've been trying to keep track, and when Steve was speaking, he went so fast I didn't get them all down. So I'm hoping that you can do a recap. But I think I had 3A, and I don't believe that that's been mentioned.
Okay.
So
let me
that's
check.
I reserve the right on a recap.
3A, no, I don't think I have that one pulled. Okay, Karen, you had,
Yeah, I need bylaw 02522 pulled. I missed a clause in the bylaw. So when it comes time to approve bylaws, we'll do that one separately. 2522, which is the county agreement.
the roads maintenance agreement. Okay. I'll do a
Sorry, Andy,
recap.
I got one more addition. I meant to, I thought I skipped over it, sorry. 6B as well.
E.
That's firefighter certification.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
thank you.
I'll do a recap here. Just and then if we're missing anything, we can deal with it. So, okay, I have 2A.
Sorry, your worship. I believe we also need to pull. Mandy, was it the Parks and Rec minutes that talk about the date of the open house for the pool?
I was going to bring that up in my group meetings.
Okay,
Karen.
all right, thank you. Yep,
That works,
sorry,
okay.
sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So just recap again, we have pulled out for further discussion 2A, 2C, 2D, 3A, 4A, 6A, 6B, 6C, 7A, 8A, 8B, 9A, 9B, and 9B represents B, C, D, E, and F. And I think that's it. Are there any others that anyone would like pulled out for discussion? Mike.
Mayor Alex, I just wanted to make a comment as it relates to 9B. So 2A is the planning report that applies to these other pieces of correspondence. So I'm hoping we can address both of those items at the same time with 2A.
Okay. Maybe we should do 9B first so that as it relates to it. Any others to be pulled out for discussion? Okay, then we have, if I can just find the right page here. We need to adopt all the others, not requiring separate discussions. So we have a recommendation that all items listed under items for consideration on the February 22nd, 2022 council agenda, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved and the recommendations therein be adopted. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we'll go back, and since 2A is the and 9B are related, just a minute.
So 9B is on page 139.
Yeah, I'm just reading the recommendation to make sure I have it clear in my head.
Okay.
So the recommendation for 2A is to just to receive the report. The zoning bylaw amended relates to would be in bylaws when we get to that section of the agenda. So with that said, why don't we start with 9B? If council is okay with starting with 9B, we'll start with that as it relates to the item 2A. And I will read the recommendation for 9B. And that is as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive email correspondence from Lorraine Dennis dated February 7th, 2022 in regard to the Bentley Street subdivision. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that to get it on the floor? Moved by Dan, seconded by Sherry. And with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Dan, go ahead.
Okay, I'll start. There's a number of letters that have been sent from neighbors of the proposed subdivision. I just want to make sure that all those comments and letters, issues will be one noted and concerns addressed, I guess. So there's, I think there's about 4 or 5 letters there. So I just want to make sure that, I know we've had a public meeting in regards to that. These are some letters that have come in afterwards. But again, I still want to make sure that their concerns and issues are addressed.
Okay, is there any specific items you'd like highlighted?
No, I don't think so. Each letter is a little bit different. But in the end, they're all kind of saying the same thing, that they all have a few things that they'd like to see addressed in the development by either, certainly, I think by the developer. And I think that I just want them, each letter to be acknowledged and addressed through the planning department or the developer.
So did you want me to speak to that? I can answer.
Sure.
Certainly, that'd be great, Jessica.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we have been forwarded every email that's been received, every letter that's been received from neighboring residents. We've tried to address as much as we could in the report. Some did follow after the due date of a report because they are due before, obviously, tonight's council meeting. But we do take into consideration everything that's received. And we continue to work with the developers to make sure that everything is addressed to the best that we can. And again, the bylaw that's been brought forward tonight we've tried to address everything. And some of the things that were brought up in the letters didn't directly relate to the zoning. They related to other matters of the subdivision agreements. So those will continue out in our file and be addressed at later dates.
Okay. Thanks, Jessica. Any other further questions, comments? Sherry, go ahead.
So just for clarification, we are able to discuss 2A as well as 9B at the same time. Is that correct?
Well, I was going to deal with 2A separately, but I mean, the crosses over. So if there's something you want to
Okay.
say, I don't see any problem.
Okay, thank you. So I just have a couple of questions, and that is, we're not dealing with the commercial component this evening. So I guess my question is wouldn't it be better for us to take a step backwards and deal with the whole parcel as one and approve it all as one? Because I think a lot of concerns from some of the letters anyways have a concern, and I have a concern as well with that commercial component at the front. So I just wonder if it wouldn't be better to approve the zoning all as one, because I just wonder if the commercial portion may not change some of the development behind if it's not approved as the developer would like to see it. And my other question is where is it here? That the reduced exterior side yard setbacks, they're talking about 4.5 meters for an exterior side yard. It's on page 4. Exterior side yard setbacks are consistent current standards in other municipalities. So they're going to be looking for variance on different lots. And this is more just of a general question. I know that we approve variance on infill lots or smaller developments. When you get to a development of this size, in my opinion, that makes a huge difference. I just feel like we're meeting density targets, but we're consistently going around the bylaws that we have in place. And for smaller developments, it doesn't make as big a difference. But when you're looking at putting 400 units on a larger piece of property, that makes a difference. And I think that goes back to some of the other concerns in the letters from the folks down on Bentley is, the intensification of the property. And I know we probably can't go back on that. But I'm just wondering if with that notation, sorry, I'm taking the long way around here. Are they going to be looking, and are they looking for variances on the lots? And I guess I'll direct that question to Jessica.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I can start with the exterior side yard question first. So when it says that it's similar to other municipalities, we were trying to reference that they're going to a more urban standard there. It's what the developers have asked for based on the development that they're proposing there. I understand your concern in saying that we're approving this across a wide range of, or a large number of homes. But I think that based on the development, being in the urban areas, we have seen reduced exterior side yards of 4.5 meters before, so it's not uncommon. And again, both within local municipalities as well as within Wellington County. So we felt that it was still a sufficient enough setback. Again, it's what the developers have asked for, so we've kind of worked with them and addressed that through the whole subdivision there. In terms of the commercial block being dealt with separately, my main question to you is, you mentioned that you had some concerns. Based on the zoning, because the official plan designation and the subdivision have already been approved based on the commercial block in that location. So we've decided to have further discussions with the developers and address more specific details of the zoning that might be placed on the property. That's why we've separated that from tonight's meeting. But by moving forward with the residential development and approval tonight, the commercial block is still going to be within that same location in the subdivision. If those answer your questions.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, so it's not the concern of the commercial block, because I know that that's always been a part of the development. They've always wanted some kind of flagship, if you will, out there. I guess my concern, and it's noted in several of the letters and several comments from previous meetings about what that commercial space is going to look like. Not necessarily the fact that it's a commercial space, but what's it's going to look like. I mean, it's noted in here again that it's going to be a 5-story apartment building. And I think that we would be doing this community a real disservice if we don't look at it and see how aesthetically that it's going to fit into a rural community, not a city urban community, is I guess where I'm going with the fact that maybe perhaps it would be better to approve both pieces of property at the same time. Once we have more information on the commercial block, then it could come back and we could have a discussion, a full discussion on what that's going to look like.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment. So I understand what you're saying now. So that is part of what we're working on with the commercial block, is we are making sure that because they've asked for additional height, we've had meetings with the developers and their agent to discuss other options. We are looking at adding in, because right now they've asked for just an additional height. We're looking at adding additional site specifics to that property to make sure that it will fit in with the community. But again, it's up to council if they want to look at that together or separate.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
Okay. Dan, go ahead.
Just in regards to that, Jessica, thank you for the comments earlier in regards to the letters and that they're being looked at. But regards to the commercial development, where the developer is asking for more height, right? That's what we're hearing. So that's what they're asking. But is that what, I think what Sherry's saying, I don't think that's what we want. And when are we going to get our opportunity to say, that's not what we want? So come back with something that is appropriate. And I think you see that in some of the letters as well.
Yeah, I agree. So through you, Mr. Mayor, that is one of the main reasons why we've separated the application, is so that we could look at it further, because planning staff and local staff had some concerns. I know that council also had some concerns, as well as the letters of the additional height that was being asked for. We are we're working with them to have discussions. If that is a reduced height, then that might be the best option, if that's what the developers want to go for. If they want to go for the 5-story, then that's also their choice, and they can go forward, and then it's council's decision if they want to approve that, or they want to ask for a lowered height there. But again, yeah, we're trying to get more site specifics on the property to make sure that it fits in with the area, but it ultimately is council's decision if they want to approve the additional height, but it's also the developer's choice of what they want to ask for, and they could be taking a chance and asking for that, or maybe after tonight's meeting, they might want to come back with a reduced height, but that would be up to them.
So just to be clear on the process, even if we approve the residential portion of the property zoning today, we will be coming back and having another follow-up meeting to deal with the zoning on the commercial section. I mean, just because we are approving the residential tonight, I just want to be clear that we are going to come back and deal with the commercial at a future date.
Correct, yes. So we've already had the public meeting for the entire application as its whole, but we will be coming back with a separate bylaw to address that. And it would be very similar to tonight's meeting, where council would have the opportunity to discuss further about the bylaw that's been brought forward.
Okay.
Your worship,
you.
I have just moved Mr. Cox into the meeting. He was here on behalf of Avila. John, you're on mute.
So I think what I'm going to do here is I think we should finish dealing with the letters, and then we'll go back to the 2A and get that on the floor. And then I'll invite Mr. Cox to make his comments, because it's all tied together, but I think we'll need to tidy this up a little bit in terms of the process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Cox, so you're in as a participant, but the mayor's just asking until we get to the next item.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, so is there any further discussion with regard to the correspondence? In this case, the recommendation with okay, so we have a mover and a seconder already, so I'm just going to for receiving that correspondence. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we'll go back to 2A now, and we'll get that zoning bylaw item on the floor. And I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the planning report prepared by Jessica Rahim, Senior Planner, County of Wellington, dated February 16th, 2022, regarding zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 25/21, Avila Investments, Inc., subdivision 23T-13002. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Lisa. And with that, I will open the floor for discussion. And first, I guess we'll let Mr. Cox have a chance to, because I believe he's representing the applicant. So welcome, John Cox. If you have some comments you'd like to make, now would be a good time.
Thank you. Just following up on the discussion that has been occurring at this meeting. And we have heard the comments were certainly relayed to us by staff, as well as what we heard at the public meeting. And we have also seen the letters that are part of council's package tonight. We, on that basis, had a meeting a few days ago with county planning staff to discuss how it was best to proceed. And we really felt that the residential issues have been sorted out. And I do want to just sort of separately comment on that a little bit. the design of this subdivision went on over a considerable period of time, and it is draft approved, and that was based on the 4.5 meter or 15-foot, basically exterior side yards, which, as has been relayed in the council report, is a sort of a very typical urban standard that you would find for exterior side yards. The subdivision has been designed on that basis, and therefore, in terms of the likelihood or need for any future variances, we do not see that that likelihood coming up. One of the things we did as part of doing that too was check whether we could meet sighting distances on those corner lots in accordance with township standards, and we were able to do that. So what the residential component of the zoning reflects is essentially the plan that has been in process for some time, been reviewed by your engineering staff as well as county planning staff, etc. On the commercial component, we have undertaken to do more work on that component before it comes back to council so that they can have a full discussion with some more information about it in front of them, related to how it may look on the property, site planning, whether there are any site-specific zoning provisions that are needed and height is one of them, and that will certainly be part of that consideration, and whether the additional height is warranted. But it will also have to do with things like making sure that adequate parking, setbacks, amenity space for any residential component, that sort of those sorts of things are addressed, as well as a visual component in terms of what this may look like. We understand and have heard from council and the public in the past that this is a major entrance to Mount Forest, and we're aware of that. The developer is aware of that, and this is going to come back before you with a more full discussion. I think really what it does is the residential component can continue to move forward, develop the subdivision agreement, get that those matters addressed, which is going to take some more time. And Jessica alluded to that in her comments. But the commercial component, will have a further discussion, and obviously meeting with council about that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John. Any questions or comments from council in regard to this report? So we ran out of gas after we dealt with the correspondence, I guess. Certainly, this is an application that's been a long time coming, a long time in the process. We've seen it numerous times with the various applications that have been through the process of the subdivision agreement and previous official plan amendments and so on. Any final questions or comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a comment. So my preference, and I don't know if I have any support from the rest of council, but my preference would be to, I guess, defer this and deal with the whole property, commercial and residential together.
Okay, so if just to play the devil's advocate here, if we were to defer this, Councillor Burke, what information are we missing to proceed with the recommendation regarding the residential?
Well, I think, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we've heard from the development that they need to have this 5-story rental unit. So if that doesn't happen on the commercial portion of the property, is that going to go somewhere else?
Mike, go ahead.
Mayor Lennox, through you, as it relates to meeting density requirements, Councillor Burke, there's no need for a 5-story apartment building to meet any of those requirements. If that's the question. No,
That's the question.
there's no requirement. and Jessica's nodding, which is a good sign for me. There's no requirement that there be increased density, particular as it relates to those commercial blocks. They have met density requirements with the residential portion for the entirety of the property. So there is not a requirement.
Okay,
So even if the commercial block changes, it doesn't need to change the residential block at this point.
okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Dan, go ahead.
Just one last thing then on my part. I guess when we do deal with the commercial part of it, and I guess this could be directed at John, is that a 5-story unit is not going to be very well received. So I hope that you come back with something that is suitable and fits appropriately in that piece of property.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, again, this is receiving the report with regard to the zoning bylaw for that Avila property on the residential only, just to be clear. Okay, there's nothing further. All those in favor? Got carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 2C. This is a report with regard to development updates, the Village of Arthur. And the recommendation reads as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive for information report DC 2022-007, being a report on development updates in the Village of Arthur. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Dan. And with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Steve, go ahead. You're muted, by the way.
You would think after 2 years I'd be used to this. Sorry about that. But through you, Mayor. Yeah, I think this is a great report, both the one that we're talking about, 2C, and then the one that we're going to be talking about. And just wanted to elaborate a little bit further on the one in Arthur. It says right now, with the next phase, there'd be 440 additional allotments available, and that would kind of max out the next little while. And I think I remember hearing, and I hope I'm right, that it can be re-rated after that and then also expanded upon as well if need be for sewer allotments because we'll probably run out of sewer allotments in Arthur. So yeah, I don't know who can best answer that.
Mike, go ahead.
I'll perhaps start, and Matt can perhaps fill in some blanks. The concept of re-rating is something that we're looking at with the Mount Forest wastewater treatment plant. It was built to a larger capacity and was rated. The Arthur challenge is different, Councillor McCabe, in that the biggest restriction as it relates to increased capacity is the river, where the wastewater goes. And unless the river is going to get bigger and increase in flows, we're significantly restricted. And so the idea of creating additional capacity would probably mean a whole new treatment process, more of a mechanical process as opposed to lagoon-based process that we currently utilize. So it's a very, very different challenge in Arthur than it is in Mount Forest, and a very, very more expensive challenge in Arthur than it is in Mount Forest if we're looking to go past the wastewater, the final phase upgrade that's referenced in the report.
Hmm.
Yeah, the challenge in Arthur and Mount Forest are very different from a treatment. It's more about the receptor than it is about the actual capacity of the plant.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mike.
Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add to that discussion?
No, through you, Mayor. Just 2,300 is the upper limit right now, and In the future, it could be studied further, but it's not an easy solution.
Yeah, and it may have to be a more technologically directed solution, or we may need to look at other ways of dealing with wastewater.
And hopefully in the future, they'll be even better and more efficient and better processes and technologies as well. So
Technology does keep marching forward.
I hope so.
Other questions or comments in regard to this report? Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, just as it relates to the report, I appreciate that council pulled these both these reports, because I think it's further evidence and proof of the amount of growth that we are going to feel and address within both Arthur and Mount Forest. When you look at numbers in terms of total residential units of 1,200 in Arthur, that's a significant number, or the potential around that, and yeah, also significant growth numbers in Mount Forest. So it's great that we have that level of interest in people wanting to come to our community and help grow the community, but it creates a lot of stress as it relates to all of our services, not just wastewater. But wastewater is highlighted as part of this report because it's the restrictor in particular in Arthur. But I do appreciate pulling the reports. There's a lot of good work that goes into creating them, and it is a good summation for the entire community about what they can anticipate from a growth standpoint in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Thanks, Mike. Go ahead, Dan.
Just to add to that, I mean, it is very well put together. The report it's very accurate, I think, and it's very detailed as to what is going on. So, thank you for providing such an in-depth report to give us all a better look at what's happening and what's happened and what's going to happen here in the coming future. So well done.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I would just add a couple of comments myself, in that, if we look back a little bit in time, maybe even, as short a time ago as 3 or 4 years ago, we would never have imagined the amount of pressure on growth in our communities that we are seeing the evidence of right in these reports. And, I think we're entering a time in our community where growth and managing the issues related to growth and integrating that growth into our communities is going to be the defining issue of our time. And I didn't pull it for separate discussion, but there is correspondence in our agenda as well from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing in the amount of housing that's needed province-wide. And we are in one of the hot spots in the province for that growth. Wellington County, outside of the core of the GTA, is scheduled to have the highest rate of growth of any of the municipalities in the outer ring. And part of that is coming to Wellington North. We're seeing the evidence of it. We're seeing the number of applications. We're seeing, the vast numbers of applications or proposals coming forward to use up what we have available for developable land in our urban boundaries. And still, when we get looking at it that closely, we still don't have enough or won't have enough sewage treatment capacity, particularly in Arthur, to address all the potential we have for growth. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the issue, and all the issues that go around it, whether it be density, whether it be the changing nature of our community, whether it be our employers struggling to find workforce, whether it be people who can't afford to buy the homes that we have that need other housing options. This, to me, is the issue that is going to be the toughest one for us to deal with, and we're going to be dealing with for the foreseeable future. And this is just sort of the beginning of the beginning, I think. And when it comes to this, I think this is something we're going to be talking about a lot in the days to come. And I think we just have to figure out, and and it's not going to be easy. We start to have a community discussion as to how are we going to accommodate all this growth? How are we going to make it fit in our community? How are we going to provide the housing options that the community members need? It's a changing landscape, and it's hard to keep track of all the things that are coming our way. Any other questions or comments? Steve?
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I think we took good steps there a couple of years ago and started the re-rating and the rebuild at Arthur, and it's amazing how quickly you can run out of capacity when the demand is there. And I think the demand will always be there as well. And I think we owe it to future the future of both towns in our community to start looking at this now, because it's probably already too late in some ways, and you know, you don't want to be too far behind the 8 ball as well. And you know, the stress that it puts on not just the infrastructure, but new roads, maintaining the existing roads, building new infrastructure. I mean, then it goes right into more employees at the township, and then obviously, hopefully, finding new ways to attract more volunteer firefighters as well. So it touches all aspects of the community, and I believe this is the time to get at it. And yeah, it's going to be some hard decisions, but I guess we'll have to tackle them one by one.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments before we move on? Okay, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to the same report for the town of Mount Forest. The recommendation reads that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received report BC 2022-008, being report on development updates in the town of Mount Forest. Did I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Dan, seconded by Steve. Are we all out of gas on discussing this issue, or somebody got something they'd like to add on this one?
Pretty much the exact same as the previous report, but got to stay on top of things too in Mount Forest. So, but at least there's a little bit more, I think, space and possibly, like Mike said earlier, there is a bigger river there, and hopefully we can utilize that as well to our advantage.
Yeah, and while sewage treatment may not be the limiting factor it is in Arthur, figuring out how we're going to integrate all these new people into our community is going to be an even bigger issue in Mount Forest, because there's more people potentially moving to Mount Forest than there is to Arthur. So some of those things like, you know, how this is going to change our community, how we want to shape it to accommodate the growth, to accommodate our community's needs as a whole. I think it's going to be an even bigger challenge in Mount Forest than it is in Arthur. It's just a different set of challenges. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 3A. This is regard to the building permit review. So the recommendation reads as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received report CBO 2022-02, being the building permit review for the period ending January 31st, 2022. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Lisa, seconded by Steve. Okay, we'll open the floor for discussion. I see you've already popped up, Darren. You must have something to share with us.
Nope, I'm just available for to answer any questions that might come up.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from council? Go ahead, Lisa.
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to thank Darren. At our last meeting, I kind of blindsided him with a financial question from our chief building official. And he did provide me with an inflationary adjustment. So I just wanted to thank you for that, Darren. It didn't go unnoticed.
Thanks, Lisa. No problem at all. I had some help from Adam and Mike in the office here too.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 4A. And the recommendation is as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive for information report EDO 2022-008, being an update on our Saugeen Connect Advancing Women Economically program. And can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. And with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring this forward. I think that this is a really good initiative, and glad to see that the partnership continues to grow with WOWSA joining and a couple of other municipalities. I've had the privilege to be at some of the WOWSA events. They're very informative, they're helpful. So I just wanted to sort of bring this to the forefront, that International Women's Day is coming up on March the 8th. I've got several conflicts with that, so I'm going to try and see how I can maneuver to be a part of this, as well as the meeting for the other meeting that we have that evening. I don't know if Dale is with us and if he wants to expand on the partnership, but I think this is a great initiative, and happy to see that things are happening, not just for women, but that their focus is on youth growth and retention of new businesses. So I just think it's a great initiative.
Thanks, Sherry. I see Dale is here, so we'll let him have a go at it if he wishes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lennox, through you, and thank you, Councillor Burke, for raising this report. I think you've captured it very, very well in terms of this partnership, and from my perspective is really starting to get some more momentum now. We've been at it for about 5 years, and sometimes it takes a while for it to really get rolling, but we've got a number of good initiatives going on. You touched on them: youth with the student startup program, and then our Advancing Women series, workforce attraction, and others. So thank you for pulling it and raising some attention to it. And yes, the March 8th International Women's Day guest speaker, that's open to anyone. You just need to register. And then hopefully for the webinar series that starts on March 14th, we have 25 spots available. Last year, Wellington North, we're fortunate we had 6 participants from within Wellington North. So hoping to have a similar number this year.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Lisa, go ahead.
Kind of wanted to echo some of Councillor Burke's comments. This is a really great program, and kind of evidence of that kind of indirectly came to me the other day in some of my other circles. I was getting emailed from people outside of this municipality to the south about the guest speakers for this. So that's awesome.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I have some thoughts about this, and I'm not sure that I'm gonna articulate it as well as I think I should be able to, and that is that it's kind of a sad thing that we need to provide help to half of our population in a different way. But on the other hand, it is absolutely great that we do have the ability, because you know, half of our population are women, and they can make a huge contribution to our communities from an economic perspective. And if this is all it takes to help some women with a hand up, this is absolutely a great thing for us to be able to do. You know, it's on one hand, it's sad that we need to do it because women have been held back in the past, but it's wonderful that we can, in order to make it better for everybody, because as we lift up the women in our community, we lift up our entire community. Lisa.
Just aside to this, and maybe I should add this later, that the Wellington Advertiser, I've been chatting with Crystal Seifrid since back, I don't know, last year. And there's a Women in Agriculture feature coming out in the Wellington Advertiser in a couple of weeks, and it's going to blow your mind. They're shocked by the talent that's out there. So from women.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Okay, call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 6A. This is in regard to the purchase of a pickup truck for the fire department. And the recommendation is as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report Fire 2022-01, being a report on the award for purchase of a 2022 pickup truck, and further the council award the purchase to Leslie Motors Ford at a cost of $46,709 plus applicable taxes. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. And with that, I will open the floor for discussion. Steve, go ahead.
Thanks, and through you, Mayor, and I see the chief is up there, so that's great. The background on this was fantastic. I like the collaboration between all the municipalities that went together to increase our buying power. And I hope there's more of that collaboration in the future with any vehicles within the municipality, not just the fire trucks. I just had one real quick question, and I know supply and demand of vehicles, farm equipment, almost anything that is sold at a dealership has usually a bit of a waiting time. And Chief, I was just wondering if there was a waiting period for the delivery of this pickup truck, or is it kind of going to be on time, or when do you expect the delivery, I guess, of it? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but
yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's a really good point, Councilor McCabe. And there is no delivery time. None of the dealers would commit on a delivery time right now because they don't know what they can get and when they can get it. What we're anticipating is a 6 to 8 month delivery time. Anything before that would be a bonus, but as it said in the report, that's why a lot of them didn't even bid, because they can't get suppliers. Talking to the purchasing agent in Center Wellington looked after this tender, she said the one dealer they talked to canceled 60 contracts last year that they had for pickup trucks because they couldn't get them, and the prices, they couldn't guarantee them anymore, so they just canceled 60 contracts. So
wow,
it's definitely a really weird market out there for sure.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised that at that, like, that's a huge contract to lose, but I'm glad we've got a good price on it. And I again commend you for the collaboration. I think that was well done. It needs to be done again in the future and often.
Yeah. Other questions, comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea of collaboration, especially if it gets us a better price on vehicles as opposed to one-offs. If we can group it, I think that's great. Chief Harrell, my question is, I think in the report it stated that this was just for the truck and that it wasn't going to be outfitted. The price didn't include the outfitting of the vehicle for the fire service. Do we have any idea what the costing may be on that? And would that include the decals as well? And what would that sort of look like, I guess?
So good question, Councillor Burke. No, so the lighting package would be the first thing to put on it, but we're going to wait to see what the deadline or the delivery date is going to be for that. We're anticipating we can get that done because we're doing the package, the group purchasing, and put them all together. We're expecting we can get the lighting package on, and then the rest of it, from counting ahead 6 months and then sending them away to be lighting, it'd probably be a 2023 thing before anything gets going anyway. And then at that time, we'll worry about the deckling package and what we're going to do with that. So we are looking at different branding exercises and stuff like that to how we're going to brand the fire department better and how we're going to make sure that our name is getting out there. We've done that before, and it's usually part of the master fire plan process. However, in a subsequent report that I didn't want to go 4 for 4 tonight, so I didn't put the 4th one on. But for this one, we're kind of delaying the master fire plan because of the new firefighter certification, because the new community risk assessment demands are being put on us. There's very, very significant changes coming to the fire service. So we kind of want to group that all together to bring a report to you to explain how we need to look at our risk assessment, our master fire plan, and then that will take into place how we're going to market and brand the fire department, and all that kind of will go into one package. So that report and everything will come together. So not having delivered the truck for a while will get us some time to put all that together, to put it in front of council, to give you a good idea of what we're thinking and how our plan is for it, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Dan, go ahead.
Thanks, Chris, for the report. Chris, just remind me again, do we have the space in our halls, either in Arthur or Mount Forest, to store vehicles? Or are we getting to the point where we are running out of space, and where will we store this, or where will this new truck end up, I guess, being stationed?
Yeah, great question, Councillor Haig. Arthur, we're fine. We have lots of space in Arthur, and there's lots of room there. Mount Forest, as we have seen in the budget this year, that we're exploring about the new fire hall potential build in Mount Forest, because we are running out of space in Mount Forest. The pickup truck will fit in Mount Forest, but that's it. Like we're full in there. We are reevaluating our truck plan, and we're reevaluating what we're going to do with the rescue truck moving forward. Quite frankly, it just doesn't move that much. So, whether we don't replace it with something smaller, or just go with the pickup truck instead. That's all what's on the table right now in discussions with very preliminary discussions with our firefighters and that. But in Mount Forest, we are definitely, we are full and busting at the seams. And there's a lot of services and stuff that we can't provide to our firefighters in Mount Forest. Just one example is showers. We do not have showers or anything for the firefighters in Mount Forest to be able to utilize after a call on that. So, but again, we're working with the architect that was part of the budget this year to kind of put some concepts, very, very basic concepts together, to start the conversation with council on, what would it look like? And then, what are the ideas moving forward that we can use for that?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Move on to the firefighter regulations report. And the recommendation is the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received for information report fire 2022-02 being a report on the new minimum firefighter certification standards under the Fire Prevention and Protection Act. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that report, please? Moved by Dan, seconded by Lisa. And with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Steve, go ahead.
Thanks, and I guess we'll go to you, Chief. I think one of the lines in this report that really sticks with me is the volunteer firefighters need to be certified at the same level in safety as I shouldn't say a professional firefighter, but a firefighter that is full-time hired and paid for that way. So what can we expect? What kind of training do we need to go through? And how are we make it as painless as possible for you guys and for our amazing volunteer team?
Thank you. Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. And I would agree, the amazing volunteer team that we have. We've been preparing for this for quite a few years, through the inkling that I knew something like this was going to come along. I just didn't anticipate it to come this fast. And I will leave the reasoning for it coming out this fast out of the report. But the firefighters already trained to the same levels as what their full-time peers do in the city. So our training programs have been set up to do that and to be used to it. all of our recruits that now go through the county training program, they write the exams at the end of the program, and they're a fully certified firefighter, the same as a new firefighter in Toronto. So that's where we've been really fortunate to have this for about 6-7 years now. The program with the county. So all of our recruits are certified and are good. And then with the legacy grandfathering clause that's coming in, our senior statesmen, as we will call them, they will be okay to be able to be legacied or grandfathered across, hopefully, as you know, barring any changes to the final regulation that comes out. Where we'll see some differences, and we are already training this, we've got lots of courses, but any other service that we want to provide, we have to certify our firefighters to the standard. So for example, if we decide to go into confined space rescue, which would be considered like a silo rescue or something like that, we would have to certify all of our firefighters to the NFPA standard for that discipline. If we wanted to get into water rescue, we would have to certify our firefighters to the standard. So it just involves a little bit more cost to the courses, but a little bit more training in the fact that they take the training and then they have to write and pass the exam at the end. So that can be a little intimidating to some firefighters, but the feedback I've gotten and talking to all of our firefighters is they're prepared for it and they're ready for it, because they all consistently say, if I'm going to take the course, I'd rather write the exam. I'd spend all this time to take the course. I want to write the exam at the end to get the piece of paper that says I'm certified, and good on them for saying that. So overall, I'm confident that we're in good shape, and we're going to be able to handle this new legislation fairly easily, but there is going to be some bumps in the road for sure.
Sure. That's great. Thank you very much, Chief.
Any other questions or comments? Dan?
Yeah, again, Chris, good report. Thank you for well done in-depth report. And I don't know if I may be in here, but I haven't seen it. How are your staffing levels right now?
It depends on the week. We've lost a few more over the past month to, as you said, to our full-time counterparts, and good on our staff. You know, people have put a lot of work in that, and they've achieved their goals. Fortunately, I'd say out of the 6, I think that we lost, 4 of the 6 are staying in the municipality. So working with them a lot and you know, talking to them and getting them to hopefully stay is part of the battle. We're going to lose some to the full-time departments, especially with this new legislation. But with only working 8 days a month in the full-time counterparts, the key is to get them to try and stay here and that. So we're holding well with our staffing. We've got 4 more recruits in this recruit class. We'll definitely be recruiting again next year, but we're holding our own for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mike?
Mayor Lennox, just wanted to offer a couple of comments from council. I sat in on a webinar that included representatives from the Fire Marshal's office as well as Ministry of Solicitor General around the certification piece. There's a couple things that are at play, it appears. Yeah, obviously we're grateful for the work that Chief Harrow and our previous chiefs and all of our volunteers have done as it relates to training and certification. That's not necessarily standard across the province, so that's part of the reason around the certification, or that's part of the reason we're being told for the certification. The other piece that always will be put back in front of council is council gets to determine the levels of service that we provide from a fire perspective, from an emergency service perspective, and that sounds great, but obviously councils across this province want to provide highest levels of service as it relates to emergency services. So it sounds like an easy thing for them to say, oh, well, you guys determine the level of service and then you just have to train your firefighters to that level. Well, we all want to be able to provide very high levels of service from an emergency standpoint. So it puts a huge amount of pressure on volunteer fire departments around that. The other piece that seems, one of the other pieces, I guess I would say, is that the Fire Marshal's office, I think, has acknowledged that there is an increased administrative burden associated with certification. Record keeping as it relates to volunteer fire departments, they don't typically have the same administration that a full-time city fire department has to track training, to offer the training services, all of those things. So I think there's a recognition of that, and there may be opportunities coming forward for smaller services like our own to try and recoup some of the administrative costs associated with that. So Chief Harrow and his team have been progressive in terms of bringing forward training, tracking from a software standpoint, all these things, and that's put us in good position. But hopefully the province acknowledges that and helps us offset costs because we are a small service. The other piece that's being recognized across the province, and as Chief Harrow has alluded to, we're going to lose more volunteer firefighters to full-time services because we certify them. And that's upsetting to all of the volunteer fire departments, because we pay for the training, we provide those opportunities, and then we lose those volunteers and the cities gobble them up. So we're hoping at some point that gets reflected also across the province. That's probably wishful thinking from the CAO seat, but I think it's a reality that has existed and is probably going to get exasperated over the next little while. So hopefully when you guys have those opportunities to have conversations with neighbors who are in similar situations with volunteer firefighters, this is a topic that carries some weight. That, yeah, we need to be acknowledged for the training that we do, not only for our firefighters that stay with us, but for the ones that leave us and go serve other communities as well. So I leave that for you guys to consider.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
I was just going to say, Andy, through you, I think, Mike, you made a really good point, is that smaller communities, smaller municipalities put out the training. And I know you've said this in the past, is you'd rather have a good trained force that leaves than a untrained force that stays. And that's kind of the juxtaposition of what we're doing here for offering services. And we have to have the best services that we can possibly give to our residents. They expect it, and we should give that. And yeah, it makes it tough when we lose, but it sounds like the deputies and the chief have pretty good recruiting in place, and like you said, they're progressive, and again, trying to get out in front of it.
Okay, Chris, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Ed. I just wanted to add to what Mike was saying, and thanks for that, Mike. One of the things that you will get as a package, and I just want to expand on a bit more, was the community risk assessment that we're mandated to do. We're going to do it, and now that we have the software, we'll be able to give you some raw data so that when we do the community risk assessment and the strategic plan, the master fire plan, and bring it back to you, it will help you when we look again at our establishing and regulating bylaw, or our bylaw, for council to help determine the level of service that we want to provide to the community. And all of that then will give you more data, more background information on what we can do for our community and what we honestly can't do for our community because of staffing and training and that type of thing. So that will be in the future, that all of that, the training, the community risk assessment, the master fire plan, and the ENR bylaw will all be wrapped into one package that it'll give you a really good information package, hopefully, to be able to make these decisions in the future.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. I just had one question too, and it relates to, you were alluding to the training required for things like water rescue or confined space and so on. And I don't know the logistics or the practicality of it, but it's just something that, we could work together with our neighboring departments, where one, say, would take on the water rescue as an example, another might take on some other discipline, and we share those skills across, similar to what we do with mutual aid?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great idea. And we've already had conversations, obviously, Minto, Wellington North, but Center Wellington and Mapleton as well, to see what we can do as a northern part of the county, and what services that we can start sharing, that 1 or 2 stations between the, it's 4, 7, 9 of them, can do different modalities, and then what we can do to share that and sign agreements and all that kind of stuff. So absolutely, we're already having those discussions, and then how we can split training costs and share training courses and all that kind of stuff. That we're trying to get out ahead of it, because this new regulations will give us 4 years and 6 years for specialty trainings like water rescue and that. But we want to get out ahead of it and start coming up with a plan that we can bring back to councils and show that we're all working together in the north end of the county to put this plan together to make it more feasible for all volunteer fire departments to move forward.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. And we'll move on to the Fire Service Annual Report. And the recommendation reads that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received the Wellington North Fire Service Annual Report 2021. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Lisa. And with that, I'll open the floor for questions or comments. Steve, go ahead.
Again, you're 3 for 3 here, Chris. Another good annual report, and a lot of stats and a lot of time has gone into this. And, you know, you've brought up a couple of points that I maybe overlook, and it's, I think it's very specific to smaller municipalities and smaller communities that that hire our volunteer firefighters, that they can leave work at literally a moment's notice and attend to other people that are in accidents or in fires or anything like that in our community. So I think a big, huge thank you has to go out to the employers as well, and to you and Marco and Khalees as well for putting this report together. But also, and I think sometimes it's overlooked, is the families of the volunteer firefighters as well. I know we do a great big thing for our volunteers in this township. That's been really well received, and I wonder if somewhere in the near future we can't do a kind of an appreciation for the husbands and the wives and the kids that are part of a family for our firefighters, because they put up a big sacrifice as well. So again, just a great report. Nice to see some of the good numbers and your outreach to the community. I know I follow you on Twitter and Instagram. It's always nice to see you guys out in front with the flood warnings, and you know, if there's an accident in the area, to avoid that area. And yeah, just a great report all around. And again, going back to what we were just chatting about, it's nice to see you out in front of some of the legislation that's coming through and have put us in a good spot.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And yeah, definitely the credit goes to the 2 deputies for all the stuff that they put in there. And that they're both at training tonight with different stations, so they couldn't be here tonight. So I get to sit and take the accolades, which is nice. But I will pass it on to them for sure, because they do a ton of work, and a ton of the statistics and stuff that you see in there is all from them and the work that they've done. So it's working well to get those numbers that we were getting. So thank you for that.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Okay. Oh, Sherry, go ahead.
Sorry. Chris, just a question, great report. And I'm just wondering, over the last couple of years, especially with COVID and everything that's gone on, and we all know that we've had some real tragic events within our community. And just wondering if the firefighters are using the peer support system, and maybe what the uptake is on that service provided within the department, without touching on, you know, any particular incident. But is that program still working within the department?
Yeah, absolutely, Councilor. Yeah, we've put a lot of time and effort into it, and it doesn't get seen, and honestly it's not up in the forefront for a lot of the firefighters. They don't see that it is, but in the background, we know from the amount of people that are approaching us and the amount of people that are using our services that are there, and the numbers that we get, it is being uptaken and it is being used a lot. We've also taken this time to, Khalees has taken a lot of courses over this COVID time to understand. There's a lot of pivoting going on right now with critical incident stress management, our SISM teams and our peer support teams. They're finding that the way that it was dictated to do before is kind of changing a bit because the younger generation coming in, and they're not just as apt as to stay at the fire hall and go talk to someone there because they're intimidating or they're scared or they're used to more being on their phones. So they don't like the face-to-face. So, you know, just having a group go out to a local restaurant and having a meal together is something with, you know, with a peer support person sitting in the room, just watching, not necessarily talking that, but different techniques that we're staying on top of. And we're going to be pivoting our peer support program, not only in our two departments, but in the county as well, to look at that. So yeah, the numbers that we're getting and just by the number of people that we're speaking to, it is getting uptake, and we're making sure that through some of these serious incidents that we've had, that the people are getting the resources, the help they need.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 7A. That's the ops report with regard to the maintenance agreement between the county and the township. And the recommendation reads as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report Ops 2022-007, being a report on a housekeeping update to bylaw number 36-16 with respect to the maintenance agreement between the County of Wellington and the Township of Wellington North. And further, the council authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the amended bylaw. And further, that as minor changes are required to bylaw 36-16, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign an amending bylaw without the need of a staff report. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that recommendation, please? Moved by Dan, seconded by Steve. And with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Steve, go ahead.
And thank you, Baron Lennox, and just through you. Just maybe a quick question about the agreement. What, like, are there any, I guess, I know it says there's no financial costs, but if the county takes over kind of the maintenance of what our employees are doing now, are we going to be billed for that later, or?
Matt?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lennox, to Councillor McCabe. The only change really is that right now, the township or township staff would, you know, work through a street or a traffic signal issue, where in the future, Wellington County would. A lot of the time that means calling in a contractor, and we will still have our proportional share of that bill. We just won't be managing that interaction going forward. So it's not, it's more just it's that the county staff are going to handle that problem in the future, not township staff. That's the big change as it's laid out in right now.
All right, just another quick little follow-up, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Go ahead, Steve.
What what kind of response time would that entail? Would it be kind of similar to what township staff can react to, or will it be a little longer, or what do you see there, Matt?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Like right now, our current traffic signal contractor comes out of Kitchener. So if it's something that we're not able to handle locally, that's kind of where our responder is coming from. The difference will be that Wellington County staff, because they handle a lot more traffic signals than our staff do, they'll probably be able to troubleshoot or potentially deal with some issues that our staff wouldn't be able to deal with, just because we don't have that kind of training. So yeah, our contractor who does our work comes out of Kitchener, so certainly there's some response time, but I think from there's probably more problems that we can handle locally, just because Wellington County staff have a bit more expertise related to traffic signals.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 8A. This is in regard to advanced voting days. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report CLK 2022-007, being a report on advanced voting days for the October 24th, 2022 municipal and school board elections. And further, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the advanced voting days bylaw. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Dan. And we'll open the floor for discussion on that. Steve.
Sorry, and this will be really quickly. I don't know how I missed about the ballot box being in Kenworth during office hours. I saw it mentioned above, and then just as I was going back through it here again, I see that it's going to be available from the 3rd until the 21st through 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that's good. Thank you very much for that.
No, so can I just clarify? The
Sorry.
ballot box will be in Kenilworth, October 3rd to October 21st during regular business hours.
Business hours, sorry. Yeah.
And on voting day, October 25th, it will be available until 8 p.m.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for that.
Any other questions or comments with regard to that? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll next move on to 8B. This is regarding council meeting schedule for 2023. And the recommendation is as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report CLK 2022-008, being report council meeting schedule for 2023. And further, the council approves the council meeting schedule for 2023. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Lisa, seconded by Sherry. And with that, I'll open the floor. Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I pulled this, and my question is, by moving or by passing this, do we tie the hands of the next council? Or could it be amended if they so choose at a later date?
Okay, Karen?
So through you, your worship, yes, if whoever is forming the next council, if they would like to revise this, they could. The reason we're getting it out so early, though, is so anyone who's running for council has an idea of, when the meetings are going to be. So yes, they could revise, they could repeal it, they could amend it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 9A. This is the Ontario Land Tribunal, and this has a lengthy recommendation attached to it, which I will opt to not read. I'll trust that you have it in front of you and can refer to it there. And I will ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Steve. Seconded by Dan. Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll start the discussion. Steve, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I guess I'll get at it. I was actually had a really good phone call with the mayor, Tom Maracus, just about the OLT, and I think it's a really interesting proposition. And I mean, this is why we're here for, is to flush out some stuff. But I guess one of the biggest, proponents I'm thinking about it with this is, almost the whole meeting tonight, we've been chatting about what direction we want our community to go in, or what direction we don't want our community to go into, what our community is going to look like, how many stories of apartments there could be or not. And I think dissolving the OLT, the Ontario Land Tribunal, takes that out of the hands of the province and returns it to the people in the municipality that actually live here. And I mean, it could be a hybrid of council members and or members of council and public to put together a community plan for our municipality, and not just our own municipality. I think if it gets dissolved, it'll open up a lot for a bunch of municipalities, obviously across Ontario. And I think there's a real opportunity to drive development the way that we really do want it. They always talk about the missing middle, where there's no homes for middle class. It's hard to find homes for people that have jobs in our communities within our township. And I think if we can take out the possibility of a huge and costly process going through a huge tribunal, if we make a decision and it can just be easily appealed by Mike Gibbons development, you know, I think we can probably owe that to our municipality and our residents to streamline that issue. And I mean, the premier in this provincial government are all about removing red tape and letting municipalities do the business of municipalities. And I think this is one, I guess, one motion that I could get behind to give power back to the municipalities to actually chart a real course of what we want for a mix. Yeah, we'd still probably have to adhere to the PPS, of course, but I think we could build our community out the way that all of our community members would like it. So that's kind of my plug for it. I don't know where that would leave us with the ministerial, the MZOs. I don't know if that would be wiped off if the OLT was gone altogether. And I know that, you know, Ontario is the only territory or province in Canada that actually has a land tribunal. And I think I kind of understand that just based on the value of the land here and the population within our province. And I mean, you have to account for some of that. I believe there probably was a time where these were necessary, but I think we've passed that time.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
Wow, I did that great of a job explaining it, or?
So just let's be clear about what we're talking about here. So if we approve this resolution, we will basically be saying that we agree that we should that the province should abolish the Ontario land tribunals. Is that correct, Karen? You're muted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, well, I'll dive in here, Steve. You lured me in, so here goes.
Sure.
So you know, I agree that the what used to be called the OMB, or you know, I have trouble keeping track of the name of what it's called right now, but these land tribunals, I think there's a need for the role that they fulfill to some extent. So if we were to abolish these completely, then if a community member, say, wanted to pursue some sort of recourse around a development, all they would be left with then is the courts. And the cost associated with that could be very, very prohibitive. So for our residents who may not be of the greatest means, would basically be blocked from any recourse around a decision that council would make. So that's one of the concerns I have with abolition of the tribunals completely without a replacement, is how do those in our community who aren't that fortunate to have the financial means, how are they able to participate in the process if they should disagree with a decision that's been made? I agree the system is cumbersome and the tribunal often takes a lot of time and creates a lot of headaches, and I wish there was a better way. But I think if we were going to abolish it, we need to look at other jurisdictions' planning laws too, and look at adopting some of their planning law ideas as well. Because I think this is really geared to the way the province's planning legislation is set up. Do I think there's room for improvement? Absolutely, I do. But I just don't think that wholesale abolition of this without some sort of recourse system, it would be just not really wouldn't be in the public interest. Let's put it that way. I agree. We do need greater autonomy to carry out the plans of our community, but there does need to still be a way for members of the public to engage in the process that is accessible to them.
Yeah, and I agree with you if I can jump in, Andy. And yeah, I think there's one of the ways to, I guess, to mitigate what you're speaking about is to have members of the community on almost like a mini tribunal board, or not even a tribunal board, I shouldn't have said that, but on a committee that actually charts the course for our municipality and have their buy-in as well. I mean, we've done that in the past where we consult with the public, and having public and members of council and members of staff on a committee to say like, no, if you want to move into Wellington North, you have to build this size of a house for a starter, row houses or townhomes, this, that, the next thing. Like we could literally actually set up our community the way that we need, and affordable, attainable housing, I think could be better, I think achievable, I suppose, if we had the public's input on this. I mean, there's so much we're tied to anyways now, with the county at the the land committee meeting there, and then our own planning as well. And if we could actually supply our residents or set up a system where there's a supply of attainable housing, and a certain percentage of it has to be this. I don't think there's going to be a slowdown of developers wanting to still do business and build homes in Wellington North, and I think you'd see a huge support from our employers in this area as well.
So do you see the land tribunal, Steve, as the barrier to that? I mean, and a lot of those tools that you're talking about already exist in the current provincial planning documents. We could create a separate planning board that involves members of the public. It doesn't have to be members of council. We can.
And I mean, that would only take an appeal from a developer to push it back onto the OLT. I think if you set it up straight and narrow, like, here's what we want built in Wellington North, in or out kind of video. And I know it's not as black and white as I'm portraying it to be, but I think if we really wanted to, like I say, set up our municipality for attainable housing for people that work in our within our borders, I think if we can bring that kind of back into the municipality and actually have people like ourselves and staff, and also people of the public that actually live here and know what we need. I mean, it's great to see all this development, don't get me wrong. I think it's fantastic. But I don't know how many people within our own community can afford any of these houses, let alone all the people that are coming into our communities from the cities and buying up all the houses that we were just chatting about today. And I think I think it warrants a good discussion. Like, because I mean, they can't, the province just, if they got all the municipalities to say, yeah, we want to get rid of it, pretty sure they're not just going to be like, oh, okay, we'll get rid of it. I think there'll be probably really good discussions at a provincial and at a county and at a municipal level to come up with a better process that we actually can have not the right, but have the ability to literally build our community the way that we want, the way that we've been talking about for years.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump in here?
Excuse me.
Dan, go ahead.
I'll just briefly say, I really think that going back to the mayor's point is that I think that it needs to be, it just needs to be fixed. And I think maybe there are positive changes that can come out of some good discussions, but for us as a council or committee members in the community, we're not experts in the planning. We're not experts in the planning process. And, you know, we've seen what happens when, you know, we say that we just don't like a development. You know, if we don't like a development, we just say, and we say we don't like it. That's not adequate. Those aren't adequate reasons. And we're not, again, we're not experts. We're not professionals. So I think that going back to the mayor's point, that maybe it needs to be, they need to look at a way to reduce the red tape, but they also, I think we still need to have somebody that's, you know, that's what they do. And I think, I don't think we as a local council or municipal council and committee members from the community have that ability to make those decisions.
And I think to your point, Dan, I think this kind of gets the conversation started.
Sure.
We got to start somewhere, kind of deal. And
yeah,
if
no, I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, if nothing's talked about, then we'll stay the same.
That's right.
Lisa?
I do agree that there probably are some problems with the system. There always are. But I think here in Wellington North, I think we're blessed. I think we have a good council and we have pretty good staff, and not every municipality does. I think it's important that arm's length kind of mechanism is there to give our residents an avenue, and especially a cost-effective avenue to deal with potential matters, whatever they might be.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of good comments made here, and I agree with most of them, but I'd just like to say, I think that it's nice to see that the Ontario government is having these discussions, because I agree it would be nice to have a more hands-on approach, as Steve has said, with sort of shaping our community a little bit better. But also think that there needs to be some checks and balances, and I don't think that we're necessarily the folks to do that. So like I said, nice to see they're having this discussion, but somewhere in the middle, if we could meet somewhere in the middle, not go all the way to the right or all the way to the left on this topic.
Okay. Anything further before I call a vote? Okay, so all those in favor?
I'll row the boat.
all those opposed? That's defeated. Thank you, and thank you, Steve, for bringing it forward. I think this is an important discussion, and I wouldn't characterize the defeat of this particular motion as an indication that there isn't a desire for change. I think there is a desire for change and a desire to develop a better system. We just don't think that this particular solution is the right solution at this point.
We have to get the conversation started somehow.
Well done, Steve.
That's absolutely true.
Okay, and we're now, I think that's the end of our list, isn't it, Karen?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, so I'll ask if there's any notice of motion this evening. Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on to community group meeting program report. Anybody have anything they'd like to report on this evening, Steve?
Yeah, sure, Andy, I'll go ahead. I just had an SBCA meeting. It was just one of our quarterly meetings, so that nothing too big to talk about there. But one things that I did want to bring forward was the public meeting that Matt has so graciously and patiently set up with the architect for the Mount Forest pool concepts. And we are going to have that meeting on September 23rd at the arena, and it will be at 5:30 p.m. till 7. And it's actually going to be in person.
September, Steve?
Sorry?
Did you say September?
March, in person.
Okay. I thought I heard September. Sorry about
I
that.
did say September.
Did I? Sorry. I don't know what was on my head. Sorry, March 23rd at 5:30 p.m. In person. So it'll be nice to get out and actually see some public again. And I think people are wanting to see some plans like this in person again, like we used to with some, when we did some road building and reconstruction. And I think that's probably it, Matt, unless I'm missing something.
You got the thumbs up, Steve.
Sounds good. So yeah, that's March 23rd, 5:30 p.m. Stay for the Lions bingo afterwards if you want.
Okay. Any other, Sherry, go ahead.
No, I just have a question. So the March 23rd or March the 8th has been changed to March the 23rd?
That's right. Yes, it was originally the 8th, and then it was going to get moved to, I believe, the 22nd, and then it's on the 23rd now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other community group report? Lisa, go ahead.
I always have a ton, right? I've had quite a number of meetings, and I have a cultural roundtable this week. It was postponed, but it did have Mount Forest Chamber and Arthur Chamber last week. Arthur Chamber was kind of nice. We had an in-person meeting. We were under the allowed number of people, and it was nice to kind of actually see people even from far away. The Mount Forest Chamber and the Arthur Chamber are they're collaborating to do an Easter egg hunt for clearly for Easter. Kind of the advantage of having Stacy at both of them. She's working together, and she's dealing with a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of sanitizing Easter eggs. I don't know how she's going to handle it. I didn't pay attention to that part, but lots of talk about the fireworks festival down in Arthur. Again, a lot of talk at the chamber about Arthur's 150th. And they are sponsoring some public space skating, and they're going to start working on one of those barn quilts that we've been hearing about, or they're commissioning a barn quilt. Arthur's 150th anniversary, they have been, Faye has been coordinating some meetings. Lynn Rollins has been taking notes. Now I have asked to be circulated on those notes going forward. So I'll make sure that council gets a copy of those, just so you can keep track of what's going on. The Lions Barbecue is Thursday. Tickets are already gone, so I hope you got some. And the Arthur BIA. They are doing something, or we're talking about doing something really, really cool, which is a poppy painting, and it looked pretty nice. So when I get a copy of that, I'll have to share it with you, but that'll be for the Arthur 150 as well. That's it for my report.
Okay. Any other community group reports? I'll just give a quick update with regard to Wellington North Power. I mean, the annual meeting will be coming up again in May. And of course, we don't have the fully audited financial results yet, but just wanted to pass along that the concerted effort over a period of time of Wellington North Power has resulted in a record-breaking bottom line this year, along with still maintaining excellent service quality characteristics. So I think it's really hats off to their team for putting that all together, especially under these difficult circumstances. And we'll look forward to you hearing all about it in more detail at the annual meeting coming up, and hopefully all of you can participate in that. This is not every municipality has a utility as a part of their portfolio, and we're very fortunate to have that. And you know, it's nice to see that things are continuing to improve in terms of the results from our utility. I don't think I have anything further today. Anybody else have anything else? Okay, we'll move on to bylaws. And just Karen, you said you wanted to pull out 25.
Yes, it needs to be amended, so we'll pass it separately. So if you want to do that first.
Yeah, so what do we need to do to amend that bylaw?
So there are two clauses in that bylaw right now. I need to add a clause in the middle that says and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign any amending bylaws where, as determined by staff, the amendments are minor without need of a council resolution or report. And what that will do is that when there are minor amendments to be made to that agreement between us and Wellington County, it doesn't need to come back as a report. You don't need to discuss it. It'll just come back as an amending bylaw on the agenda.
Okay. So then the recommendation would read that bylaw number 25-22 as amended.
Correct.
Be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. Any discussion around that? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we'll go back and deal with the other bylaws. So the recommendation will read that bylaw number 26-22, 27-22, 28-22, 29-22, 30-22, 31-22, and 32-22 be ready first, second, and third time and enacted. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Dan. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're on to our cultural moment. And I will read the cultural moment for February. And it's celebrating spinning wheels in the past and now. In the past, spinning fibers was a necessity to provide warm clothing or household items. If a flax or cotton fiber was spun fine enough, it could be knitted or crocheted into cloths, table mats, curtains, or lace. Spinning with wool, llama, alpaca, goat, or dog fiber could produce warm coats, sweaters, hats, mitts, and even underwear. Well, that might be itchy underwear, but that would be underwear. Before spinning wheels were invented, fiber was spun on drop spindles over 10,000 years ago. A spindle provides a twist that turns fiber into yarn in a process known as drafting. Like spinning wheels, they can come in a variety of designs. Unlike spinning wheels, they are more time-consuming to produce yarns. Many men in third world countries still use this method. We may associate spinning wheels with our pioneers, but they were actually invented in China about 1000 AD. The idea later spread to Iran, then to India, and finally to Europe. Mahatma Gandhi used a spinning wheel called a charkha during his struggle for India's independence and economic self-sufficiency from British colonial rule. In a pioneer home, a grate or walking wheel was common. It was invented in the 14th century to spin wool into yarn and was approximately 5 feet high. Known as the walking wheel because a person walked back and forth beside the wheel and could walk up to 20 miles a day, albeit inside their cabin, while feeding the unspun yarn into the orifice of the wheel. The right hand spun the wheel and the left hand manipulated the fiber so that it was twisted evenly. Today, spinning wheels are used as a popular handicraft. They are obsolete in commercial manufacturing as they now use industrial spinners. However, there are farms who have home businesses specializing in either the raw fiber or finished products. There are also groups whose sole purpose is to socialize while spinning and sharing information. One group is called the Queensbush Guild of Fiber Artisans. This group has 20 plus members from Mount Forest, Con, Williamsford, Hanover, and Mildmay, and pre-COVID met once a month in a member's home. These spinning wheels that these ladies use are as various as the many makes and models of automobiles and are modifications of those used throughout the centuries. That's your cultural moment for February. And I guess when those people get together, somebody's spinning a yarn somewhere.
Oh, good Lord.
Dad joke.
Oh, man.
You've been waiting to say that one all week.
That's your groaner for today. Lisa.
I just wanted to say, as someone who has wool, I have 3 bags of wool sitting here for Penny, so maybe we should ask for the finished product of her spinning away.
I say a pair of underwear for every member of council.
I wish you were on mute.
Okay, I think all we have left on our agenda now is the closed meeting session.
Sorry, Mayor Lance, if you could go over the upcoming meetings, just so we're clear about
Sure.
when the Mount Forest Outdoor Pool meeting is, and we get it on the recording.
Okay. Sure, absolutely. So the Cultural Roundtable meets later this week on Thursday at noon. The Mount Forest Aquatics Ad Hoc Advisory Committee meets Tuesday, March 1st at 7 p.m. Our next council meeting is Monday, March 7th at 2 p.m. Recreation, Parks and Leisure Committee is Tuesday, March 8th at 4 p.m. Saugeen Connects International Women's Day event, what we talked about earlier, is March 8th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Our second regular council meeting in March will be March 21st at 7 p.m. And the open house for the Mount Forest Outdoor Pool will be, going back to my notes here, March 23rd at 7 p.m. Is that right, Steve?
5:30 till 7.
Oh, 5:30 till 7. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
On the
That's
23rd.
a Wednesday.
Wednesday, March 23rd.
Yeah.
At the Mount Forest Sports Complex, I assume.
Yes.
Dean.
What was the time?
5:30 to
5:30 to
7.
7, Dan.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So we'll ask people to dip their toes in on the design.
Oh, God. What are your thoughts?
Oh, this
I've-
could go on all night.
I've created a monster. So we have a closed meeting session, so I have a recommendation to move us into closed, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North go into a meeting at 9:20 p.m. that is closed to the public under subsection 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 specifically for item B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And we'll deal with the report, a verbal report from the CAO and the review of the closed session minutes. So could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor? So we're in closed. So